Greetings, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about sampling and just kind of copyright laws that regard sampling, how to go about finding your own songs or finding songs to sample, and just a little bit of my own tips and tricks on how I go about sampling. First things first, before I get into anything else, first you can see we're kind of missing the pop filter here, so we're using the sock, so bear with me here. And second of all, this isn't professional legal advice. I am not a lawyer and am not responsible for any potentially illegally copyrighted material, whatever that you may use. Anyways, with that being said, let's get into everything. So, I'm well aware that you guys probably already know how to sample. I'm well aware that there are many videos that already exist on sampling. My goal here isn't necessarily about how to sample, but how to keep yourself safe when sampling legally, and how to kind of go about finding some music to sample, because I understand that it may be difficult to know where to go find music that isn't copyrighted. So the first thing we're going to do here is just kind of talk about copyright, and I'm going to just get into the general umbrella under copyright and public domain and kind of getting an understanding of that. So for this, I'm going to be reading off some of my notes here that I've taken in my audio business classes that I've taken, and I just want to make sure I get everything said properly, just because these are laws that I'm reading off and I do not want to spread any misinformation. Okay, so the first thing we're just going to get into here is a brief overview of copyright. First, just where does it come from? Copyright comes from the federal government, which means Congress. How do you copyright something? There are federal copyright forms in which you can fill out, which I'm not really going to get into, and it becomes into effect, the copyright comes into effect whenever the material that you are copywriting is in a tangible medium of expression, which just means that you have it in a form in which that people can obtain this form of this copyrighted material. Okay, so that's kind of as much I'm really going to dive into about copyright itself. If you want me to get more in depth into it, I can do a video on copyright, this is more just supposed to be a loose lesson of it, just to be able to get a good understanding of sampling in public domain. So the main thing about copyright is there's 4 main copyright codes. These range from the copyright codes of 1970, 1831, 1909, and the Code of 1976, which is what we're still using to this day. So the main thing that you need to understand here is how long a copyright can last and what is public domain. So as the copyright codes have been revised, this time has been dragged out more and more. So nowadays with modern copyright laws, it's 70 years after the author's death is when the copyright is no longer in effect. And then this thing also includes for joint works, you and someone else work on a song together. It expires 70 years after the last artist's death. There's more things regarding how, whether it's work for hire and working with other people that can affect the copyright. I don't need to go too much into that, but yeah. The main thing is these older copyright laws I previously mentioned had much shorter time of how long the copyright was in effect for. So that's why pretty much any song that you look at that's before 1920, you're guaranteed that it's going to be in the public domain. Pretty much. So what public domain is after a copyright expires, whatever that original copyrighted material was goes to the public domain, which means nobody owns it anymore. Once something's in the public domain, no one can sue you for using that material. You don't need any mechanical licensing and anything under that general umbrella to let you use someone else's copyrighted material. So that's why a lot of you may notice in the recent years that people do sample a lot of old songs a lot and a lot of music that's really old, and that is why. So for this, there's a lot of ways you can go about finding music for this. Any song though, generally speaking, now you know, you can search up song name and is it in public domain, and you'll get an answer, and if it is, you are completely free to use that music or that piece of music in any way, shape, or form that you want to. The main thing you just need to pay attention to is what copyright code it falls under. So anything nowadays will fall under that 78 code, the 1978 code. So now let's use this as an example. Let's say I recorded a song and copyrighted it in 1908. Next year is when the revision of the 1909 copyright law would be. But when that song was copyrighted, it was copyrighted under the 1831 copyright code. For the entire life of that song now, it is going to be under the 1831 copyright code. Because of that, despite it only being a year's difference between when the copyright code would have been updated, it's still going to fall under the 1831 copyright code. So with that being said, most modern sound recordings were recorded from that 1909 copyright code and on. The thing about the 1909 copyright code that I'm reading here is it only lasts up to 28 years from the original date of publication, with the option of renewing for an additional 28 years. So that means most songs that are under the 1909 copyright code are in public domain now. Now, in 1998, there was the Sonny Bono Act that added an additional 20 years to any alive copyright at that point in time. As long as the copyright expired before 1998, should be fine, and even then 1998 was more than 20 years ago, so that's another thing that you just find out when that date expires, and as long as if it's past that date, then you're all clear. So that's just a little overview of how to understanding public domain and how to find music that's in the public domain. And now you know that anything that's in the public domain is completely free to use. Now, also, fortunately, we live in the day and age where things like sample packs and splice exist, which, as long as if it's anything that's being advertised as royalty-free samples, then you should be good to go. I also forgot to touch up on this, but anything that's AI generated cannot be copyrighted. So if you're going to be one of those people who's going to try to become famous off AI music, well, I mean, you just can't make any money for it. But additionally, once you get into AI generated samples, it's kind of more iffy, but generally speaking, if you have a plugin that's an AI plugin and you go write me a little sax fill or something along those lines, and you can apply your creative tactics to those in some ways, manipulate that sample a little bit, you should be completely fine to go. Even if you don't do that, you'd probably be fine, but I would just apply your own creative things to it, just because, you're your own artist, and just to help save you. So just main moral of the story is can't copyright AI generated material, so just be careful with using anything that's AI in your music, beats, whatever. So the next thing I'm going to do here is just kind of walk you through the process of how to find music that is in the public domain, just actually doing it, my processes to go about doing it, and then I'll throw it into Ableton, and then I'll show you how I'll go about maybe flipping some of these samples and just kind of my own creative sound design processes for them. Okay, so as you can see, we're just on YouTube here, literally just searched up jazz songs from the 1910s. Very simple start. We see a playlist right here, so I'm just going to open this playlist and go through some of the songs here. All right, now let's pull this up as the first example. So an instantly easy way to go about doing this is just pull up ChatGPT, take the song, and go, is the song paste in the public domain? It says yes, with the important distinction between the song composition and the specific sound recording. So this is an important thing to pay attention to that I didn't really cover earlier, is that there's a difference between the sound recording and the music composition too, which is why I like using AI for this, because it'll kind of distinguish the two. So as you can see, it says that the sound record or the music composition was entered the public domain already because it was published in 1910, which just means the music composition, meaning the melody, the chords, the drums, all that. But then if you look here, the specific song I was just listening to, the sound recording, doesn't go on to into public domain until January 1st, 2027. So, as of right now, because it is May 2026, this is not in the public domain yet, which means I can still get in trouble for using this. So now I just went through, picked another random song here. We came across this nice little. You see? So now I put it into ChatGPT again, and this time we're hit with. I made sure to put both the song and the sound recording, which is something that you should do as well. Forgot to do that the first time. But yes, both of them are in, and as you can see here, entered the public domain on January 1st, 2022. So we're pretty much all set with this thing here, and I had to go. Now we're going to go do arguably the most illegal part of all of this, which is download it from YouTube. Yeah, anyways, I'm gonna throw this all into Ableton, get this set up, and then we'll get this going. Okay, so as you can see here, it is jazz, so it is always going to be all over the place, scale wise, but it kind of, and a lot of those hooks there seem to be in like C minor, so we're going to kind of work around that. And now I'm just going to go through and pull out some different parts of it. So what I did here is I literally just pulled together this little like kind of loop that I can just reuse. So we just kind of have that to work with. All I really did was just find parts, match them up together, and then just like kind of crossfade them and stuff, and I like reversed one and crossfaded them, just stuff like that. Literally just reversing, crossfading, just so you can get a sound that, like, if I take this and copy and paste it, I can. See, it can just kind of be looped over and over and over. Yeah, so now that I have that, I can kind of use that to work and throw some other things in there. So another really cool thing about working with old music like this is all of it's, it's either recorded on tape or literally on like wax cylinders. So obviously you get that like that hiss in there, so you can kind of use that to your advantage and use that for tonal textures. And I love using a lot of analog sounds and things that have that some nice like hiss to the high end, but really warm like mids, and grow an appreciation for the sound. So being able to kind of go and emulate it digitally in some ways is pretty cool. So now, bam, ooh, that's such a nice hiss. I don't know if you guys can even hear that, but it's really nice. It's beautiful, and this is exactly what we need to add some nice textures, because now I can just cut the highs on everything, get some nice warm lows, and then I use this hiss over everything to kind of, give it some air. Okay, so here we are a little bit later now, and now we've done a handful of things here. I just threw, some simple drums on there, little 808s, and the loop itself. Now, this isn't the best thing I've ever created. This is just for content purposes, but so yeah, it's whatever. But we have another really cool thing is now you can, and most DAWs you can do this, where you just drag this. That's not what I wanted to do. Yeah. So you can do this and convert harmony to new MIDI track. You can do melody, harmony, whatever you want it to be. I usually just like doing the harmony for the chords. And it's kind of 50-50 whether this works, because sometimes you'll do this and it'll work really well. Sometimes you'll do it and it'll give you some hot ass.
So I don't know. This isn't the worst thing in the world, but so that's kind of what I usually like to just go up in there, kind of fit things to the scale. That's usually the easiest way to go about making it sound, I guess, good. But so you can kind of use the default sound too, but I'm just gonna throw some random little Zenology preset on there too and see what I can get out of that.
Okay, so I've kind of reached a point here where I've messed around with this like melody here, and honestly, like that on its own is fucking beautiful. So I love that, and I just want to make a beat with that in general. And it's like if I didn't sample the song, I wouldn't have even have got that. And now I didn't even have to really use the song, so it's even perfect to use that to even get like a starter going. But even like this sound on its own, like fits the with this fairly well in some spots. Like they complement each other in the mix. This is the only thing that doesn't really fit into me. So let's see if I can find anything else to do with that to really make it like a cool texture or something. And if not, oh well, I can just scrap it and then I just use the other things, you know? So here we are. I just kind of, threw some shit together. Now, I didn't really know what to do with this part. It's not really important for this video's sake. Maybe I'll finish this, maybe I won't. But I can at least say with this certainty, like, look, I mean, I based both of these off of this sample. We have these up here, which is like the tonal quality. These are, the audio to MIDI. And then I just kind of pitched these through a little transgate on it, so it kind of gives it some groove to it. And then with everything else, here we go, and this is how this shit turned out. But I mean, hey, generally speaking, it's pretty fucking good. I'm happy with it. A little something. There you go. I mean, it's like I just looked on YouTube, had no idea what kind of beat to make, nothing. Just went on YouTube. But I mean, hey, it's pretty cool process to run through whenever you're going through like writer's block and you just need something to start with, or if there's a specific style of old music that you wanted to go for. Like I had no thoughts really going into this. I just randomly chose jazz and somehow I ended up with a West Coast beat. But, it's kind of just anything that it takes to just help fuel your creative process. And it's cool just to randomly take something and then, let your creativity take hand. And that's exactly what happened here. So I hope you guys learned something. If you want me to make more videos like this in the future, let me know. And if you want me to do anything more touching more in depth into copyright and that stuff, I can do that too. Or just any more production videos, I can do that too. But yeah, I just hope you guys learned something. And yeah, that's about it.